I'd like to begin today's April 10th meeting of the Somerville Tree Protection Board. The first item is approval of the minutes. Are there any questions, concerns, changes?
No, I move to approve as submitted.
Second.
All those approved say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Minutes are approved. First item of business is old business, and that is 19 Legree Lane. Morning.
Good morning.
I can hear you pretty well.
If you don't need it, I don't need it. We usually have them on there. Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Matt Halton. In a previous life, I was the town engineer and the public works director and the zoning administrator and the floodplain administrator. You get it back in the day. We had
Back in the day.
a lot fewer people doing a lot more of the work, but the town was small back then, so. I'm joined also by with Joey Aaron. Joey is a property owner. He drove all the way out from Vegas to meet with you this morning. He was the one who's building the house. He's retiring after 28 years on the Las Vegas Police Department and decided to make Somerville his home. So I guess the good news and the bad news about this lot, do you have the current survey at your fingertips?
How current?
Well, I mean.
Okay, we have it. Is this it?
Well, I have a blow up. I think what you have, yeah, that's at 1 to 40. These are at 1 to 20.
Okay, good.
For a little bit more detail. I can even read the glasses for everything, so. I am. Okay.
Thank you.
All right. So the good news and at the same time, the bad news about this lot, it's a beautiful lot. It's got the trees on it. Some of them are very good species that are worth saving, some of them are not so much. I think at the heart of this issue seems to be the two 30-inch oak trees. Sitting where the garage is sitting now. And what I did on my CAD program, essentially the way we used to do it, with a cutout house. And we have taken this house and we have slid it and twisted it and moved it in every which way we possibly could, even angling the garage to kind of make it so that the house could be entered better with cars. We've changed the driveways to gravel. We made the driveways smaller. We moved the RV shed. We have, I promise you, looked at this thing every way we possibly could to save as many trees as we possibly could, while at the same time staying within the setbacks. That are required for the zoning. Previous to actually applying for a permit, there was actually a kind of a cul-de-sac at the end of this road that we had asked the town to put a claim to the property owner. At that time, it was owned by Brad Mallett. And he later sold it to Joey Harry and his wife. But a lot of work has gone into saving as many trees as we possibly can. In fact, there's a 24-inch oak to the left of the RV driveway. There's a 36-inch oak between the RV shed and the house. Two 24-inch oaks in the front yard, and then a handful of oaks ranging from 13 inches to 18 inches that we're making every effort to save. The 28-inch oak that sits in Joe's master bedroom is not a great species. I think you've all been to the site. you've seen the condition of that tree, some of the others. And one of these 30-inch oaks is not a specimen tree either, but one of them is a nice tree. It just unfortunately happens to fall well within that footprint. Short of redesigning this house, which Joe and his wife have spent already over $12,000 on architect fees to design and redesign and then redesign this house. Short of going back to the architect, coming up with a different house plan, I don't see any other way we can possibly slide and rotate this house to make it fit the city. Either of those things. And after serving the community for 28 years and retirement, this is your forever home, you really kind of want that house stay. To raise your family. To be happy with and there some will go. So I guess what I'm telling you is we've taken this particular footprint and we've slithered around every which way we could on that lot to save as many trees as we can. And Joey and his wife are saving a significant number of trees. This lot.
Matt, I've got a question. Does this take into account the possibility of putting underground utilities instead of having overhead?
We actually are going underground utilities, from the power pole to the left. There's an existing overhead power line you see in the front.
Mhm.
And then from that power pole, it is going to be underground to the house.
We were aware that that was being considered, and at one point it seemed that it might not happen, so we were adamant that it did happen, so
And that it- I'm
that
sorry,
it would go underground,
That it would be
uh,
underground.
yes. And so that's good news because that does save some destruction in the future with the tree pruning for the power pole, for sure. So,
Yeah, we know what a great job Dominion does.
yes, we
Trimming
do.
trees in town.
Our consideration from the very beginning was, of course, taking a look at a wooded lot like that and envisioning the destruction of all those trees. Now, granted, there's some trees that aren't so good, but if you looked at the original list from the arborist of the trees that are being removed, those were the better trees in the lot, and the ones that were being saved out of the way the dice fell, I realize that, were the inferior trees with a few exceptions. It almost seemed, and I know that with the size, Mark mentioned the multiple flips to try and just to stay within the setback limitations, and that was a tight fit. But the overall impression, and you must understand for us, is that it appeared that this house plan was set in stone from the beginning, and that it was not created in any way, shape, or form to accommodate, some of the concerns we have about some of the trees. It's not just the one live oak. One of them would probably, if those two are going to be saved, one of them would probably maybe go anyhow, or one that's really leaning over. I believe that's the one closest to the house center. So that was what I think I particularly was under the impression that the house plan was already set, and it was really, it just had to make, the lot had to accommodate it.
Well, the house plan, I'll let Joey speak to this, but the house plan is, we hope set now, but no, it's gone a couple of revisions to try to twist it and turn it and whatnot.
But the footprint hasn't changed, has it?
I'm sorry.
The footprint hasn't
Footprint
changed.
has not changed.
No, it's
from the first time you have seen it, but it's changed significantly from the first time I've seen it. And when I originally did the tree survey. I told Mark right from the beginning that this thing's got some trees, it's got some challenges on it. And so we've massaged this house plan a couple of times prior to you seeing it to make it fit. Unfortunately, the bigger trees are basically right in the middle of the lot. So, and it's not that they're building too much house on too little a lot. This lot is almost 6/10 of an acre.
Right.
It's a fairly large lot. Unfortunately, the trees just fall in that place, but if we are to build this house, and that is certainly the plan, after spending $12,000, I don't think Joe and his wife want to go back to the drawing board with the architect. If we are to build this house on this lot, I don't see any way of saving those 2 30-inch oak trees.
Well, and a lot more than that. They're not the only ones. I mean, that is the most significant. The one on the left is the most significant tree on the property. But there are other trees. There's the circle where I don't recognize that circle that's circling the 2 pines and the 2 oaks. What does that signify at the,
Talk about in front of the garage.
yes,
Yeah, so what we're showing here is a 20-inch pine and 18-inch pine being removed. And then both 24-inch oak trees being preserved.
what's the circle mean? Anything particular?
The large circle
Yeah,
is the tree protection
okay.
fence. Of course, it's truncated on the house side for the sidewalk and for the house itself, but the circle around the trees are the tree protection.
Okay. You said that the driveway would change to gravel, so that concrete driveway to the garage, is that turned to gravel too? No.
No, the concrete driveway to the garage is in fact concrete. If making that gravel makes removing those trees more palatable, we're certainly will entertain that thought as well. But the driveway going to the RV shed is just simply going to be yard. It's not going to be paved in any way.
What did you say about the gravel driveway would have done what in case of the one going to the garage?
I said the driveway going to the garage is shown currently as concrete.
Right, but you said something about relation to the trees if it were gravel.
If changing that to gravel makes removing those trees more palatable, then we're certainly willing to entertain. keeping
Well,
it out.
This is just talking about, I'm sure you satisfy the impervious surface
Yeah, in fact, we're
ratio.
right at 30%.
30%.
impervious area.
That
well-
was achieved through reducing the size of the driveway. Essentially just remaining dirt and grass.
The other thing that we've done is we contacted Natural Directions.
So contacted Natural Directions to talk about the trees that are being saved, a plan going forward to make sure that they are successful. And in this letter from Natural Direction, they give a strategy for each of the 24-inch oaks, 36-inch oaks. What they could do to convert those, as far as airspace and whatnot. So that's an additional step that the Europeans want to take.
We were there when
Yeah, Mr. Skinner.
Mr. Skinner from Natural Directions was there and we know of them for sure. So that we were pretty familiar with what his plans were. Anyone else have anything to say?
Yeah, I would just like to ask, what's the possibility of planting some additional trees on the property? You know, maybe not as mitigation, but just trying to kind of offset some of the losses. Are there any pockets that y'all can put some canopy trees, plant on the property?
Yes, I mean, to answer your question, yeah, absolutely. I don't think that's not a deal breaker for anybody to plant mitigation trees. In fact, we met with Jesse last week and actually proposed some mitigation trees. If I were to draw a canopy of all the trees that are remaining, though, I don't know how much sunlight is actually left, but if there is a place to plant a new oak tree, then that's certainly something that they're well to do.
And we would, and since Kenny is in your employ, Kenny, right? Donnie Skinner was in your employ, he would be the best one to ascertain where would be a good place for a canopy tree to help.
Do you have a number or a?
No, that would be up, if I were to decide or describe what I think I wish, and perhaps the board would agree, it would be that it would be his discretion to, because you don't want to plant trees that are going to die. And there's no sense spending money and wasting time and the rest of that. So
So
I would-
you want to leave to his discretion, both the number, the size and the species.
size, we like to do 2.5 to 3, but otherwise, yes,
Canopy trees are preferred.
right, yeah.
So we're not, could be live oaks, could be.
Right.
Whatever's gonna be successful. is what we're saying.
There's also another option we have is for second canopy trees, understory trees. Which also may be, Kenny, I'm sure is familiar with that, that would be a plausible and acceptable. Where something could be an understory tree and survive well and not be, a true canopy tree. Because of the situation presented to that tree when it's going in the ground.
Yeah, well,
Knowing
no,
at the house that Joey and his wife plan to build, I'm certain that the landscaping will be as good as nice. as that. But yeah, if mitigation trees makes this work, then I'm more than happy to plant as many. Whatever species of trees are going to be asked of them to do. I think there's no. Yeah, I mean, you don't have any problem. First, real on the sweater.
Yeah, thank you guys for giving me the opportunity to come up here and say a couple of words. I do live in Las Vegas. I've been there since 1985. I am originally from South Carolina. My father was in the military, so ever since we moved out there, I've been waiting to come back, and now the time is right. Married with 2 daughters. With the home, this is something that I want to build where this is where I want to live out the rest of my life in this community. We've had the opportunity to select anywhere in the country if we're going to go to and wanted to come back to South Carolina, specifically Somerville. Some of the things that I need to plan for as a good father and a good husband is a mother-in-law. I have an uncle that lives in Marion that I know one day I'm going to have to care for. So with the footprint of the house, it's not just for us. It's for our family is what it's going to be for. But when it comes to anything that we can do to make the property look nice and make the town proud, that's what we're here to do. We're not, we want to be a very important member of the community. We're like that in Las Vegas, and Las Vegas is more than just a strip, but that's something that we plan on doing when we do move here. Just some of the road bumps that we've run into is with our planning and what we're doing. And when we purchased the lot, I'm retiring in July, and now I'm in a position where I have to rent another house in Gahagan while our home is being built, the one that we're going to live in or live out the rest of our lives in. And it's difficult with me not being here. Mr. Halter and Mr. Watson have done phenomenal work for me. It does cost money to do that, but I truly appreciate it. But just for myself and from my family, we'll do anything we can to make this a beautiful property and make it, I know it's hidden and not a lot of people drive by, but I want it to be one of those properties where it makes the town proud. And during the holidays, people do want to drive back there and do a little circle and look at the house, whether it's Christmas lights or how pretty the art's going to be. That's what my plan is, and that's what my family's plan is to be a very important part of this community, and it starts with our home. So if you guys have any questions for me, I'm more than happy to answer them. But like I said, thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to come up here and speak before you. And I appreciate any consideration you can help with us to get this property built so we can be strong members of this community.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Did you ever consider housing the RV in a separate location, considering how large it is and the impact on the property that it presents?
I have done that, but you're running into a cost every month with that.
I
And then
realize that.
also you have to run with the social factors. I don't know, actually, I know you have an issue with that, so that law enforcement here with the catalytic converter thefts.
Yeah.
And they're so easy to steal off of those, but when it comes to that, I want to be able to house it on my property. That way, if it's something where we do have guests, it's a nice Class A RV where somebody is, nobody's gonna live out there, but if we have a cousin or something that comes, they can spend the night in there. But I would prefer to have that on my property. And then with the yard and the trees on why the way that I want it to look in the future with that workshop, I need a place to have my tools to be able to keep the house up and be able to get the yard up. So that's why that RV shed is important to me. I'm one of those, I'm a tinker, so I always need to be doing something, and that's gonna help my equipment to do that.
I wondered if the confirmation, if the shed was absolutely necessary, the work shed, and couldn't be like elsewhere, could that configuration have been changed perhaps to not impose upon the trees in the back of the lot, even though they're not high graded trees, they're not huge threats. They're laurel oaks and they'll stand up for a long time, even though they have defects, and many of the trees need attention on the lot, as you probably been pointed
Yes,
out.
sir. And like Mr. Holt was saying, we're, and I am not being disrespectful by any stretch of the imagination, but I don't need direction to plant more trees. We're gonna do that anyway. That's one of the plans that we have. And like I said, we want it to be a beautiful property. It's not gonna be over the top or obnoxious, but that's part of my plan going forward. But back to the RV shed, I have thought about that, and it would be a monthly cost to be able to store that RV somewhere else. And it's not just the cover that's gonna go there. The RV shed is gonna match the house, so it'll look exactly like the house when it comes to the lighting and everything else that I have on there. So I think that's gonna be an imperative for the part of the property, and there's nowhere else to that I can put it on that property. In a perfect world, I wish the property was square and I could line it up that way, but with this piece of property that became available, it happened to be exactly what myself and my family were looking for. And you guys are correct, and I applaud you for doing your job. It's a beautiful piece of land, and I'm surprised that we were able to purchase it where it's at. But with that, we just want to add to it and add to the value, not our personal value, but the value of the community is what we really want to do.
Will there be plumbing in the workshop?
I'm sorry.
Will there be plumbing in the workshop?
That was something that Mr. Watson, Mr. Halter and I spoke about, and that's when it comes down to it, that would be a luxury, and I can live without that. So there will be electrical, but no plumbing out there. Any more questions? Thank you guys for your time and your consideration.
Thank you. Any other discussion points?
Well, I continue to have a hard time with this. I'm a neighbor, by the way, of this property, and I too live on 6/10 of an acre. And I just find that a heck of a lot of house for that and RV shed and all that for that neighborhood. It's I certainly don't dispute you. If you say you need it, then you need it, but it doesn't seem real organic to that part of Somerville to have all this building on it. But well, that's my thought.
And that's been the sentiment, again, picture when we come to a lot like that and we see the plans and we see the size of the house, because whoa. I mean, you've done a great job explaining it to us, and we appreciate that. I'm glad you could come, inconvenience as though it may have been, because that surely helps, because I know Mark couldn't be here today. Yes, it's a lot for the property.
I don't, as a neighbor and as a Somervillian, I don't particularly care for it. But if there are no alternatives, and I'm going to take Mr. Halter and the property owner at their word, if there are no alternatives, if you spent $12,000 on a plan, another 5,000 might make it a better plan. You're going to spend all this money on a RV shed and all that. I think a revisit with the architect might be in order. But having said that, if in good conscience you think you are really doing what's right for your family and for the town, as long as these recommendations of natural directions are implemented and followed through with, I'll reluctantly support the removals.
Any other comments? No. I'll make a motion for approval of the tree removals contingent upon underground power service as is described, as well as mitigation in the sense of beautification for the removed trees and anywhere it's a suitable place that Natural Directions can see if compensation is adequate. Or more than adequate is beneficial. That's sort of long-winded, but that's my motion.
I second.
Any more discussion on the motion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
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 All opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you, Russ.
All right.
Okay.
Have a nice day.
Next order of business is 101 Plantation Drive. 2 sweet gum, 1 red oak, and 1 musclewood. That owner has had that to be contingent upon the approval of the HOA to move his fence and boat landing area, boat parking area. And so we pretty much decided, I think, that it needs to be deferred, and he was fine with that. So if there's no other, well, let's talk about the trees while we're looking at them. Particularly, there was the tupelo, which wasn't of great concern. It just made a mess on the ground, and it wasn't a high concern of his. The next photos will show the trees. Does anyone want to talk about the trees that were there? It was a red oak there. That's always problematic.
Well, the ironwood tree, I think we did have some issues with that one,
Yeah.
structurally, and I mean, to me, to remove that tree would be fine. I just don't know how that's going to affect the adjacent tree to it.
Well, one of the problems was he wasn't sure on which way he'd be able to approach it. And one pathway would have taken out the 2 trees to the right, and the other would have taken out the ones toward the back. And so there was no way we could approve anything even, potentially, or conditionally, because we'd have to approve all of them. And so, we deferred it, and he agreed that I would fine.
Yeah, I think we defer and
Okay. Talk about it later.
it's hard to have a decision till we know which way he's gonna go.
Impossible.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Agreed.
Have a motion.
I move to defer.
Second.
All those in favor of deferring?
Aye.
Opposed? We are deferred. The next is removal of 1 hickory tree at 114 Spring Meadows Drive. This is the one that was backed up to Pine Trace, I guess, which is definitely a plus. If you plan to be there for a while, deer and all. Right. Discussion about the tree with a hollow in it.
Yeah, well, it's so much more than the hollow. I mean, if it were simply that hollow at the base, and though the hollow did go up, at least I could get my ruler up at 18 inches to 24 inches up into the trunk. What's of more concern to me is the lack of structural integrity of the roots on the backside. They seem to be decaying significantly, and I fear that, coupled with their decay, coupled with what sounded like decay in the root flare and the trunk root flare, indicates to me that there's probably root rot, or at least a good case of it. And I don't think that the tree is. It may well be that the tree is structurally unsound, so I would vote for removal.
Did you explain the flare a little bit more?
Yeah, well, I'm sorry. The flare is where the trunk meets the root system at ground level. So we doing a mallet sounding, just to see if we could hear decay. There was decay at that base,
Right.
or sound, there was a decay sound at the base of, at the root flare, as well as in the adjoining roots on the backside.
And, okay, well, I remember that, for sure, but the appearance alone was not enough.
No, the of the hollow,
Yeah.
No, no,
Of
there-
the- of the root rot. The appearance of the flare itself was not was in itself.
no, the combination of the
Okay.
two, of the
So
the combination of the sound, the potential decay in the root flare and the potential decay in the three major roots that I saw on the backside is what makes me think there may very well be root rot.
It's just a shame that that's the only tree on the property.
Yeah,
Yes, it is. But the upside is that there's that huge area behind it. And if that is indeed pine trace, it's not, those trees are going to remain.
Yeah, exactly. And he's got quite, a large area back there that he could replant a tree as well, or trees, if he wanted to add into the forest behind him.
Right. And I wonder, can we offer that as a suggestion in the letter that you send him, Nick? We can't insist that he mitigate, I don't think, but a strong suggestion that he replace another tree.
we just did it.
Yeah, I do that a lot. It's kind of suggested.
That'd be good.
Anything else? Got a
No.
motion?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I move to approve removal of this hickory based on the testing that Mr. Burbidge did on the root system and with the strong, not urgency, but strong, what am I trying to say here?
Recommendation.
Recommendation to replant trees on the back of the property.
A second. All in favor?
Aye.
All
All opposed? Motion passes. Next is 118 Hartley Hall Court. And that was the removal of one large red oak and one large white oak. And I guess we really couldn't find anything. The assertion is that that the fear of branches overhead for the red oak, as well as it's challenging the sidewalk and the foundation. We couldn't see any foundation issues. We saw a slight raise of the slab form of the walk in the back. Otherwise, the tree was just remarkably healthy. And there was a little bit of a concern about the white oak. Danny, you wanna?
Yeah, the white oak, it appeared that as we look at all those branches that we're seeing at the very top appear to be sucker growth or growth as a result of perhaps something major being blown out of the top in the past. And so it's possible that there could be decay up in there. So I would recommend that the applicant have a certified arborist inspect that tree to see if there is decay. There may very well not be. But I would suggest that they have a certified arborist look at the white oak. I saw nothing wrong with the red oak whatsoever. If there's if one of the roots is disrupting the walkway enough for it to be it's not a tripping hazard now. But if there's a concern for that, then I would suggest having, again, a certified arborist inspect the root system to see if root pruning is possible. But I don't know that she needs to do anything now. So
Another issue was, there are two water oaks on the property that our arborist, recommended highly that they be removed as to the nature of their danger. They're hollow, they're just really ready to go.
Yep.
That was not taken seriously, but, we should make a point of recommending that in whatever motion we make today, that, if she's worried about, things damaging her house, they got two of them sitting right there.
Yep.
that, probably more when rather than if.
So are you looking for a motion or?
Anybody else have comments?
No, I just agree with what Danny says. Just both trees from the ground look to be doing very well. And, the only way you can tell anything different is to have an arborist go out there and check out the canopy and see if there are structural issues up top. Otherwise, I think they're fine. And I make a motion, we deny removal of these two trees at this time.
I second that.
I'd like to amend the motion to include the recommendation, the strong recommendation for removal of the two water oaks.
Well, and I'd also like to amend the motion to include the suggestion that the applicant may wish to have a certified arborist inspect the crown of the white oak.
Well, that was in his.
Was it part of, I'm sorry, if it was part of his motion, I apologize. I didn't hear it.
Yeah.
Okay.
You said
Well,
that.
I did mention, I just made a motion to deny removal. We discussed it prior to that though, but. if
Well, I thought
Danny
you
wants to
mentioned it
amend
too, to have somebody look at the top of the tree, but, so let's just.
I think I
redo-
would make, amend it to, have a certified arborist look at both trees. Cause I mean, it does look like the red oak has a part a bit blown out as well up top. But, recommendation to inspect both trees, for potential structural issues up top in the canopy. Do we need to start this motion over again?
Remy,
I got it.
Do you?
Yeah.
Okay.
okay,
Want me to read it back?
no, we got an emotion to not, to deny removal of the trees, but have them inspected by qualified arborists, particularly the white oak, because of the potential for rot from above from a previous injury. And then perhaps a challenge of the roots of the red oak to the foundation. But additionally, I amended it to strongly suggest in the wording, reply letter that Nick writes, that the two water oaks be seriously considered to be removed. Do I have a second on that motion?
Well, let me, if I may, remember, when you do the wording to send to the applicant, I think it would be important to let the applicant know that in our professional opinion, that neither tree is structurally unsound. However, if she still has concerns, she should get a certified arborist to inspect them and then reapply. Can we word it that way or do we need to remove remotion? Okay, if that suits the board.
Yeah, that's fine. Sounds good.
Okay,
There's a limit to what we can see from the ground.
so there's an outstanding motion to amend the first motion?
I think he reworded the
No,
motion
no, this is about the two water oaks.
of that.
Oh, right.
I believe that should be part of the wording.
I agree.
There are two amendments. The vote is the second. The initial motion, the second is stay, and then two amendments. to the
I second the two of them.
Okay, now we have to vote on all three. First, we vote on the third amendment, which was further clarification of what a certified arborist should do to inspect the quality and health of the two trees requested. I'll second it. All those in favor of the motion, say aye. Opposed? Second amendment is that the property owner be notified strongly that the removal of the two water oaks in her property are much to her benefit as is to their danger to the house.
Second.
All those in favor of the amendment?
Aye.
All opposed? So now we vote on the final resolution, the final motion. It includes the amendments.
Second.
All those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes with amendments. That the last one?
Yeah.
Are there any other discussions, questions, or anything that anybody has? Okay,
Good.
okay.
You did good. Very well.
Danny, any more thoughts?
No, none for me.
I'm forcing it here. We don't know how to get out of here at 9:30. Do I have a motion?
Move to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor of adjourning?
Aye.
Opposed? We're adjourned.